I'm Brenda Jean Power, and I am from Medicine Woman Solution. Your soul has a solution to everything. I was just chatting with my Instagram um, peeps, and one of the things that I'm learning is to communicate about what the brain and the mind is. And the more that your mind is understanding that it's your consciousness coming through, but you have the pen, you have the clay, you have the script, you get to write it, you get to form it. When we first come in, yeah, not so much. But the second part of your life, or maybe it's, I'd say maybe the third part, we do break them off in sections. At any given time, you can start to self-actualize, but you can't do it until you start to a self-realization. And you need to then do a self-awareness. So how you begin to do that is you have to break it down and redefine little things. Who am I? Well, I'm not just a mom. That is a title. That is a hat I wear. That is what I like to do, but that's not the nature of who I am. When I go through life and I'm doing all of those things like work and cleaning, those are things that are required to do in my life. But what I'm doing here is called a vocation. And when I have this vocation, you need to have your magic. So part of defining who I am, what's my purpose? Well, the purpose, it has to do with what's important to you, not what your family thinks is important that should be important to you. You're defining you. Remember, it's your nature. So you have to find your hidden talents. You can turn on your God-given abilities. Everybody has all the same. It's just that, can you develop them? Okay. So as you move forward, the question then becomes, what is my purpose? Well, what's important to you? Once you get into what is your purpose, you need to find your magic. So you start at it and you're like, oh, I love this. I love what I'm doing. Okay, so you're doing your vocation. Well, you don't maybe know it's your vocation first, and you love doing it. That's a good check. Check. Are you good at it? If you're just starting out, you may need a skill build. But if you love it and you're good at it, check, check. And then you ask, does the world need it? And if it does, check. Now you're going to be in your magic zone. You're going to be able to radiate this energy, and the joy flows. These are the radiant energies that run through us, that created us first before our meridians and our energy cells. It'll start setting a tone, and it'll be like a broadcast message, and people look and go, hey, they got it together. Oh, I want to know more about it. And then you'll learn how emotions are magnetic, and you will draw that to you. You will literally bring that to you. Once you do that, you can move into the step of noticing that when people come to you, they want it. It feels good. They know that you're not faking it. They know that you're aligned. They know you're not doing it just for money, or you're not doing it just for a hobby. You're doing it because it is the nature of you. As you're starting to get into the nature of you, you will take and change all of these different ways of being. Okay. So I got two cameras on. I'm not sure which one to look at, but I will look at it. And can you do things without the ego mindset of extremely judging? Can you do it with discernment? Can you look like you think when people look, they look straight ahead, but they're looking in all of this. It's peripheral vision. And when you want to learn something, you can look at these directions. Now I'm looking off to the sides here, but I'm at the same time, I can see all around me. As I begin to learn how to do that, I am opening my awareness. And with that, I know how to begin to filter. Now, if you have negative emotions, you may feel overstimulated and it may affect you. But if you allow yourself to, if that's happening, to grab a tool. This is called the OMG tool. Drop your hand in the middle, or your fingers here, and drop your hand down. You're touching a very emotional point, and you're touching your forehead. The neurovasculars, the blood flow. And when you go into fight, flight, freeze, you have to. So 80% of the blood only functions in the frontal lobe, which creates reality. So when you're holding this emotional point here, it actually calm you down. So if you got a screaming baby, just kind of hover over it. You don't have to push on it. For a baby, you can just hover over it. And for you, you can just put your hand directly on it, nice and soft. But you want to do one step closer. You want to be electromagnetic, which is what you are. Your blood is electromagnetic. And if you learn to bring that energy up, you can allow yourself to say, okay, with electromagnetic in my hand, with electromagnetic in my blood, and if I need to bring my energy back out of fight, flight, freeze, I can drop my hand here. And then you stay there. And what will happen is the blood will come back up to your forebrain. You'll begin to calm down. And it's good. Hello, I see Amy in the room. And we're talking about how the mind is different. Now, what's interesting is, what do you do when you're live and something is itching? You just, make it obvious. Oh, there. Now we know. So allow yourself to move into the new you. You got to start defining yourself. So if you feel awkward, don't just feel it. Don't just be that. Self-awareness would be, I'm going to start to observe this behavior. Like, when somebody's watching you, you change your behavior. Well, if you can begin to watch yourself and see how you do it, maybe you can learn to unbehave that way. You can learn yourself and say, wait a minute, do I want to behave that way? Can I allow myself to be another way? That doesn't have to be a part of your identity. It literally does not have to be. So it is very, very important. Okay. It is very important that you move forward. So this will be a new feature. It says, yes, let's try this. And we're going to try something new. And my good pal Amy is going to, hopefully, we can figure this out together. Oh my God, I see a top to bottom, but my eyeballs are cut off. Hi, this is so weird. I'm recording also on my other show too. So what you guys all can't see is that it's doing a split screen right now. And I'm like, I got eyes. I'm up here. So I might have to go down here. Okay, so my phone is down here, my other camera's up there, and they stacked us. I'm a little confused. Oh, I could do this. Nope, you don't need to see that. I thought I was going to flip around the other way, but no, I was wrong.
No, and I don't think doing that.
No, it's not gonna. All right, I've got to figure out a way so I don't feel like I'm cut off, because
Can you lift the phone?
I could, but I've got to put a base under it or something. See if we can go a little higher.
Yeah.
All right, maybe one more. I've got all these books. They can all work. Books are good for something, right? Oh my goodness. No, it's crooked. Good enough. Now, that is a hat and a sweater back there. None of you nasty people think about anything else. I know. I just thought if Kevin ever happened to see it, he wouldn't have to say, oh, I know what that looks like. Okay, so we were talking. Yeah, so we're talking about, Spirit was teaching about mind and the brain and the nature of who you are. So would you have known any of those three words? I mean, you knew them separately. You knew what they meant, yes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So in the beginning, did you understand when I was talking about the brain? You knew it was in your head, yes?
Yeah, that's about it.
And then when I would talk about you would think you're part of your brain. I mean, this is the old way of thinking about it was that, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm doing. And some people would think that their mind is the brain, but it's not. Okay.
That's true.
And so when you understand that the mind is different than the brain, and you understand that the mind has to do with the consciousness, and the brain holds all the levels of the consciousness to what you have recorded it as, you will move into another direction. And that simply is, well, if those are all recordings, is that really my nature? What have you been discovering about that one?
I've been discovering that what I thought was my nature is like, yeah, no, it's not at all.
Okay, so kind of describe what you thought it was.
Oh, well, I thought I was, I thought I needed people in my space. I thought that was part of who I was. I thought that I needed all of these things to make me happy.
Ah, that's very good. Noticing it's not that I have a home and I've got a husband and so that means I'm a wife or I'm a teacher. Instead, you realized it went even further. Part of who my identity was the people that was in my space. Now, see, that's cool that we can understand how everybody thinks just a little bit different. Now, how do you feel after you've done healing?
Crap ton of healing. I don't need people in my space. I am in the process of starting to think I don't need like all the cards that I have. I'm like, I could put those up on Marketplace.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I don't need, it's like I have learned to go inside and be able to be happy with just being with myself.
Yes, and she made a very good point. We started off for years when I was a young mother. I loved Looney Tunes, and so they made these Looney Tune Christmas ornaments. And I was like, oh my God, I can't live without them. And I had to try to collect them until one day I was like, why is there an obsession here? That's not who I am. And I would listen to the emotions of, I can't live without it. And I'm like, whose voice is really that? And it was that part of me that was not whole. And part of it was these energy that's in the field, and this field of that energy that we happen to be in is these consciousness. Some of the consciousness boils down to, oh, shop. Okay, when I go out to the store, I feel that wave, buy everything, buy. No, I can tune that out now. And I can decide what I want to buy. I don't have to be played on my neediness or my thing that I need to fill, or that you have to give me instructions. And so I can be different. And I could not, for a long time, I got to collect this, I got to collect that. That's me. No, it's not. That's the outside me. And I'm still doesn't make me happy. I've lost things in fires and things like this. And that's still not me. And when I started to really discover who I am, yeah, just like she said, you get 100 decks now or something like that.
Pretty close, yeah.
And
like
now
89, 90, something like that.
And now she's whittling down to, what did those decks represent when you first started?
When I first started, they actually represented spirituality to me.
Okay, so the definition of outside, this is spirituality. She wanted to be closer to it. She wanted to be a more part of it. The cards spoke to her, so she got them. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, but could she be her if she lost those? Probably not at the time, but now, like she said.
Now, like, I think there's like 4 decks that I'm really drawn to.
And the rest she probably.
And that I use all the time.
Very good.
And the rest of them,
Yeah, see, she's weeding. She's discovering more of herself. And that's kind of what we want, is the nature of who you are. What are your words? What are you thinking? What is so different? And that's what you can find. You can really find these things. But you wouldn't have got there. We can't prove it, but you wouldn't have got there if you didn't start healing. So let's talk about healing. I mean, answer that first. Can you answer it?
What was that?
Could you have gotten to where you're at without all the healing?
Oh God, no.
How do you know that?
Because I didn't know that I needed to heal.
So you've noticed things in the past you've collected, and are they still there?
Yeah. They're in the basement.
Ah.
They haven't been touched for years. I've got a doll collection. I've got a unicorn collection. I think at one point I collected keychains.
Okay.
I don't know where they are.
So if you could, I mean, if you were to look at them, they could hold memories. But if anything happened to them, would you die without them?
No.
Good, good. In the past, if somebody said, get rid of your doll collection or your unicorn collection, what would you have said?
Oh, hell no.
And what about now if
No.
somebody said to you?
Okay. How much do you want for them? Or how much are you going to give me for them?
Exactly. So notice the difference in the attachment process. And it's not like you think, you know, and it's amazing when growth. So the thing is, you didn't even know you were anything other than this happy person that had a happy life, and it was pretty good, man. And you had no idea what type of thinking you had, you know, day to day. You know, you may have been upset and angry, but you just thought, it's part of life. That's just the way we talk. But how do you feel when you started to notice you were losing power to those things, and it was time to heal those out?
It was very eye-opening in the beginning. It was like, oh shit, I do that. I'm losing power to this. Oh wow, I'm losing power to that too.
And when you started to notice that you're losing power, what did that mean to you? Because you're, like I said, you're a freshly new person on this spiritual path.
I was freshly new. I still wasn't quite, I don't think I really quite understood what it was. I just knew that once I started healing these emotions out, it was like these stories, they were just, instead of being like heart-wrenching or would pull me in, it was more like, oh, I remember that, but there's no emotion to it anymore.
And notice it's not that she can't feel, it's just that when you heal out those chemical peptides of emotions, you are letting the memory be the memory, and you're not prisoner to the pain. So you actually stopped in what's called a hell loop. So good on you. Okay. So now that you've moved forward, and when you would get a reading from me, did you feel on the hot seat, or did you feel like, ooh, I want to learn more? What was your first impression?
My first impression was, oh my God, she's in my head. But then I'm like, but no, she's not. And then you explained to me later that you just see these variables above our head. And, you know, we stick our hand in and pull out the same shit every time.
Yeah, that's why it makes it easy to read.
We start healing that shit, then we can start pulling in different things into our space. And it's so amazing.
So when you heal, to what?
To be able to pull in these new things into our space and be able to just realize that, oh, I can choose that. I don't have to have that old shit.
Yes. So when you started to heal, so when you first heard me, there was the hot seat is something where you feel like, oh my God, she's looking at me. I feel vulnerable. That hurt my feelings. You see my flaws. Don't tell anybody. But at the same time, you were hungry. You started to have that urge that said, I need to know more, because I wasn't pointing them out as much as saying, here, heal them out.
Yeah. When at first I was like, oh my God, she knows too much. I gotta hide. You know, I did my damnedest to hide stuff, but you can't hide anything from you.
No, I'm discreet and I don't tell all. And there's no shame in any of it. It's no shame in any of it. So when you're getting a reading from me, it's all based on the fact that your soul wants to heal. So as you move forward, you didn't really know the things that you needed to heal. So this is what's called the unconscious incompetent. So as you are feeling like, what in the hell is she talking about? But yet she's pointing out an emotion I know. And when I start, like, maybe give you an age or something like this, all of a sudden it starts to hit that, yes, that is part of my history. That is part of that. When I first started doing that, then what'd you think?
Then bells started going off like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, and then I would start going back to figuring out, because I live in the same house that I grew up in, so I can't, go to, like, say age 7 and I lived on, Birch. I've lived in this house my whole entire life. So it's like, okay, I have to go back to the year and then figure out who is still alive. It's all a process.
Right.
But it's actually kind of fun to figure it out.
Yes.
And then when you do figure it out, it's like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Oh.
And then you can go back and heal the hell loop. And it's not something you're pretending. It's something that you knew or known, or how your little self had recorded it. So when people tell you that, hey, I don't have any memories when you're little and you're walking, they'll say, oh, you're walking. Don't believe that crap. Because what's happening is that as you age, you are supposed to forget things. And then as you grow older, you can remember, because it's all there in your subconscious mind. And usually it'll have to be just say, what age, what year, where was I living, who's my mother and father, what was going in my life. And you will zero in just like that with the emotional link. And you're like, you can't make this up, because there it is. I see it.
Yeah. And like, I lost my brother when I was 7.5, and I really don't remember anything from that time until I was about 13. It was like I don't know.
So that's normal too. Because I remember my daughter going, Mom, Grandma and Grandpa are dead. I'm starting to forget them. And I said, it's okay. But you have the memories in your heart. We have the stories. We have the pictures. But you're meant to move forward. And she's like, okay. I said, you don't have to feel sad about it. And so even though you didn't remember that, when I told you, let's go back to that age, and you're like, it was like, oh, you remembered. Especially the one when you were a little girl and about the passy.
Oh my God. You want me to tell that story?
Yes, because I told you an age about how your behavior is in the now was affected by your past. And you're like, oh my God. And you had pulled up a memory, and it was so funny because it was right bang on.
I think I was probably 2.5, maybe even 3. And my brother, he had a heart defect, so he would go to this camp up in the Twin Cities, and it's like a 3-hour drive, and my parents had friends that had a plane, and they would fly him up there. And one time he told me that he needed my passy to get through this week at school or at camp, and he gave me this green safety sucker, and I looked at it and I'm like, that's not going to last me a week. That just popped in. That was my first thought, though. And then we went out to the airport, and as the plane was taking off, I was standing on the roof or the hood of the car, jumping up and down, screaming, I want my binky. And I think I screamed all the way home, which is probably 8-10 blocks, but when I got home, I got it.
And that's when you first learned that if you can scream louder to change their behavior, you'll get something. And so sometimes that can affect, maybe work on one parent, not the other. It could work on a friend or something like that without realizing it. We sometimes pick up such bad habits, but we don't know it. This is just the learning skill of when we're little. So, but it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
So our growth process is very important. And we have to understand that when we're giving readings and we're doing these particular things, we're helping a person evolve and be empowered. So Spirit has just dropped me. Well, all right.
We're empowered by our healing. It empowers us to be able to help to heal that little girl inside of us or little boy, and to be able to set those, those memories are always going to be there, but as soon as you pull the emotions off, it's so much better. You can go back into that memory and say, yeah, that happened, but it's not going to throw you into tears or into a rage or any of that stuff.
Yes, because we want to help you, empower you so that you can mature the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual, and the physical body. And when you're able to do that, you'll be able to find peace. Most people will come to you and be upset because they haven't been able to find those balances in the safety, security, stability, sanity, serenity, and space. And giving a person the tools to get past that, to go past that, and it really helps. You can do it in an instant. You can, but it's a work in progress over time. It is very important to.
It's priceless. It's priceless to have those tools. I can't tell you how priceless that is. Once I started figuring out, the different tools, it was like, oh, I don't need to go there.
Exactly. That's weird, but it's yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you mean that hell doesn't have to be hell for very long. You can get out of hell almost instantaneously with using a tool.
Yeah, and it's not just a tool where people just say, hey, do this and this and that. You're using your body. You are tapping into that innate wisdom, and you are agreeing that you're ready to let things go and change your identity and allow yourself to have a new personality. You have to kind of like reinvent yourself. As I was going to say earlier, when you start to heal this, but it's the education, putting the knowledge into your head that all of a sudden your brain gets to predict better. As it gets to predict better, you will then all of a sudden don't have to go back and repeat hell, because the brain says, oh, we have something to aim for. And that is a good thing. It's a very good thing. And I don't know how much time, because I think it says it's supposed to be able to do an hour, but I didn't check to see how long I've been on. We do have somebody in the room. Hopefully that everything we're saying is making sense to you. I do my shows on Facebook, and I do put up stuff in YouTube, putting stuff on TikTok, and finally decided today that I'm going to adventure into Instagram land. So this was really good.
Yeah,
it is good. Yeah, but I usually do readings and things like this, and it helps a person wants to evolve out of the particular behavior that you're in. I do know,
and she doesn't, if you're going to ask if so-and-so loves you, don't bother.
Yeah, I won't do that, because I won't, yeah. See, that's important for people to understand too, because some people, honest to God, because I can read you deeply, yes, I can read others deeply, but at the same time, I've seen people use it as a weapon. No. I've also seen people torture themselves. No. Why? Am I holding back? No, because it's all about how the individual human, they have all these variables. And at any given moment, even though they may repeat, they may all of a sudden change that choice. Why? Because if we're over here playing in this field, it could disrupt and cause a person to change their thinking. Same thing when it comes to if we change our pattern to fit something, and then all of a sudden, because we're like, oh, we're guaranteed this works, and you go to do it, and let's say that energy is not ready or it's a false connection, then you can cause disruptions in the way the unfoldment is. So I don't just say, does he love me? Now I can grab cards. I don't have a problem with that, because you can let the cards speak in a certain way. So when people want to become healers like I am, they have got to understand that if they go down that road and start to say, oh, this is what he's thinking, this is what they're thinking, you're going to be coming with a hard kickback with karma. And I can't say I didn't warn you. So you don't want to go down that road. So in that case, when it comes to things, you can take a medium like cards, and you can say, okay, so let's talk about that tree, for instance, that got cut down in your yard. So the tree spirit didn't know what was going on. Okay, now see, I can just read a tree, but we're going to use cards. And the tree said that you deserve love. Now, why would the tree say that to her? Because that's not what I asked. But the tree felt that she deserved love. And I says, well, why'd you get cut down? And it had to do with the fact that it was timing, the timing, because they're showing me a card that the love wasn't received in a particular energy field. It was time for it to go. We like to control everything. But how did we feel about ourselves when, when it was, I'm not ready to let go of that tree. And it was just a tree, right? But it had unresolved stories with it, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, it did.
Now, had you not been told about how you function as a human and how you can function as a spiritual human, or how to look at it when you're feeling like shit, what was it you were thinking just moments before? What is this about? And learning how to talk to the body as the messenger, you wouldn't have realized 2 and 2 that probably was about the tree. But little by little, what was the first symptoms when you started to notice that the connection with the tree?
When the neighbors said we had a storm that rolled through and took down a whole bunch of trees and branches, and then this tree has been in my backyard for my whole entire life, and I'm guessing probably at least another 50 to 100 years, so probably at least 100 years old. And when she said she was going to cut it down, and I'm like, it's healthy, it's still producing fruit, and I think it was the home to at least 2 or 3 squirrel families.
Okay, so you started to really get into the pain. Now, what gave her the right to cut down? Was it your tree or their tree?
It's on the property line, so, but it started out as their tree, so, but it was like in my backyard.
Gotcha. So now we're claiming attachments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had my brothers and I had a tree house when I was little.
In that tree?
And there were 2 trees in there. It was like almost kind of like a pallet.
Oh, wow.
That went between the 2 trees. Well, I don't know. That's the memory that comes up, is it was just, boards going from tree to tree, and we could go climb up.
Now, tree to tree, that was your tree to their tree, or was it all in their tree?
It was both. It was, my dad asked the neighbor ladies, because they were elderly ladies when I was little.
Okay, so you got permission. What happened to your tree?
To put up this tree house.
So what happened to that tree that was connected to their tree?
The one tree, it was that I'm not even sure. That one actually, I think, fell down in a storm, which pulled the tree house down.
Okay.
But we were old enough that we weren't playing in it anymore. So.
Okay. So now notice that you're older, and now it has sentimental value. You're looking for reasons why you don't want to lose it. What does it really represent by losing it? The finalization of what?
Before I healed it out, it was like one of the last living things that I had memory of with my brother.
And you were emotional. You were having dizzy spells at some point.
Yeah, it was spinning me out, and I could not figure out. And I think it was having headaches too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. And I could not figure out why that was happening. And then, well, the next morning after the storm, after the storm, and then I went out because I had a tree that came like 6-8 inches from my front door. And I was sitting outside, and I'm like, I could feel all of this sorrow and sadness, and I could hear the trees crying. And I'm like, what in the hell is this? Because I've never, I had never heard trees cry before. That was a new thing for me. It was like, that's a thing.
Yes, it is very much a thing. Yes, hearing consciousness and other things, and we're finally allowing ourselves to pay attention that we have spirit isn't everything. Through time, we took spirit out of matter and we threw it up and said, there, it's in just God. There, that's it. But God is everywhere that I've seen. God is in everything. And when you look at these things, and when you can communicate with the trees and the plants and even rocks, it's amazing that it's a whole different level of consciousness. So you can learn a little bit of respect and use that but you've come so far that you now had created a closure to that issue with your brother, or that time period of when he passed. And so now you can be in a whole different space and grow from it. And so I think that tree, in a way, served a lot of purposes. And I think it was ready, even though it was healthy looking. It doesn't make sense to us. Okay, it doesn't make sense to us. But sometimes those tree spirits will already know what's happening and will leave. But if you give respect to the tree and say, I have to trim you, or I have to remove you, that tree spirit will go along the channels and go somewhere else.
I did that. As soon as she told me that she was going to have it cut down, I warned the tree.
Good.
I said, I think I said your time is really limited, or it's short, something like that. And she said it was going to be like that same week, but it just happened yesterday. And it was like, because I woke up every morning for like a week. I'm like, okay, is this today? Is this today? Is this today? And it didn't happen until yesterday.
The anticipation of that, did that make you sick or anything?
The first couple days it did, yeah. But then after that, it was like, oh, okay, it knows. And then I mowed on, let's see, today is what? Thursday. I mowed on Tuesday. And it was like, I could feel that this was the last time I was going to have to mow over walnuts and all of this. And it's like, it was kind of bittersweet.
Yeah,
anyway.
It would be bittersweet. But yes, you're learning to have closure. You're learning to reclaim yourself as Amy instead of saying, being the pain or being the tree. Most people don't, they think, oh yeah, I was thinking about so-and-so, so I've just now turned into that person. But you can also turn into just pain or an idea. And you have to always remember to get back.
That just floored me when you said that. It was like, you can what?
But you could feel it, couldn't you?
Yeah. And it was like, and tonight today, whatever, during your show, it was like I started to get spinny. And I'm like, what is this? Is this somebody in the room? And I went through the people that I knew that I had spun with before. No, it wasn't that. And then you were talking, you had somebody on, and I'm like, is it this person? And no, and you said something that triggered me to think, oh, she's not on her axis, am I on my axis? I wasn't on my axis. I haven't been on my axis since probably yesterday morning when I woke up.
Wow. Yeah, it's very important we get back on our axis. How did you know?
I was spinning, and it's like, okay, when I'm on my axis completely, I do not spin.
Excellent.
Even if somebody like pulls me, I don't spin. But today I was spinning, and I was spinning a lot yesterday at different points in time, and it was like, what is this? Are you playing with features?
I was trying to shut it off. Sorry, I was listening. I was just trying to shut it off. But yeah, you notice that because your body is the messenger. You are intuition. I am intuition into form. And when you can learn how to listen to the body as a messenger in intuition, you will be doing it with a very healthy, intrinsic, higher consciousness of yourself instead of just being ego, unhealthy intuition. And you swear to God, you are right. And I'm going to tell you how many people confuse themselves when they think that they're listening to consciousness when they're not. They're listening to those false selves. And it's why you don't always have to believe everything you think and say and feel, you know.
Yeah.
So all I can say is thank you for coming on. And actually, yeah, I wasn't for sure how this the first one was going to go.
It was like, I hopped in the shower and I'm like, I wonder if Brenda went on or not. And then I saw your message and and then I went in and refreshed. Oh, she's live. Okay. And then you're talking and like, yeah, I'll hit that button.
Yeah, didn't even know that was an option, but I like that. So it's funny because I hadn't explored Instagram in a long time. And Spirit kept telling me, well, you know, they allow you to do it for an hour. And I said, yeah, but they don't ever save it unless they've changed that feature. Because that was one reason I didn't do it before, was because all the information I teach, I don't want it lost.
Right, exactly.
So we'll see what happens. This is, like I said, new. And then I'm waiting to get on TikTok to see. I got to get like 1,000 followers in order just to even do my first, live there. But it's time for this movement to get going. Time for people to know that they can empower themselves, heal themselves, and move forward. Healing tools are a must. Getting out of hell, yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, me too. I was there for a long time and didn't realize it. I thought my life was great.
Yes, and that's the part. How do I get people that? Because the first part of the sensei, or I should sorry, when you start with a tribal, or just anywhere, you need to have a start point. And most of the time, people don't even know, and that needs to be part of that start point, because you start out as a white belt.
I really didn't know that I needed to heal anything. Because I had kids here. I have a beautiful house. I have a really nice car. I mean, I had all of these things
and hobbies and yeah.
I could have me.
Exactly.
Which is, I mean, over the last 3 years that I've known you, I've moved huge mountains.
Yes, you did.
I've climbed them. I've, slid down some, but I've moved a whole bunch out of the way too.
Right. And when you would go back and measure yourself against yourself and doing 6 months intervals, we were lucky enough to do that. I loved your first reaction. Nobody's home.
There's nobody home.
It's moving.
Probably, I'd say even in January, at a certain point, I was halfway home, but I still wasn't quite home.
Yeah, you had to have a little bit of instead of a whisper, you had to go towards the bitch slap. And sometimes we have to have those to get to the raw. and heal the raw energy. But once you do, and you really are determined about changing your life, what you put into yourself is what you'll get out of it. And you become a happier, healthier human, a spiritual human. And so you'll then start taking leaps and bounds in that ascension aspect, putting spirit back into matter so everything matters in a very healthy way. So I think I'm running out of time. I think I started around about 50 minutes ago or less. I don't know. But thank you so much for coming on and helping me. And I'm hoping to do more of these lives one way or the other. And I'll have to pick a better time to do it and find out where, and well, to get to know my Instagram friends, peeps or followers. I'm not even what they're sure that they're called, but I'm willing to do it. I just have to find a scheduled time for me to do it. So thank you again. Just you'll start to hear my taglines if anybody's listening. And me and Amy know these quite well. Resolve to evolve.
Heal instead of deal.
You can heal that.
Feel it to heal it.
And when in doubt, grab a tool and heal it out.
And heal it out.
And so again, thank you, Amy, for coming on and help me with this first time here. And we'll hope to do this again, maybe down the road. I just know that Medicine Woman Solutions is ready to really adventure out. So thank you so much for coming on. I'm not sure how to sign off. Like I always say, do your best to stay blessed, because I already see you whole. Bye.